Hello, radiant Leo souls. Have you felt it stirring beneath the surface? That quiet but undeniable shift, as if something heavy, something painful, something long overdue has finally ended? If your heart whispered, yes, then know this. You didn't find this video by accident. You were led here. Something in your soul called out for clarity, for confirmation, for release, and the universe responded. Here on Eternal Mindfulness, today's message is not just a reading, it's a revelation. Because on this day, July 13th, a powerful energetic chapter is closing for Leo, one that has held you back, bound you silently, and asked you to play small in a life meant to be magnificent. And what's coming next? Leo, it's not just better. It's shocking. It's liberating. It's yours. Let me ask you something deeply personal. How many times have you felt the need to dim your light to keep the peace? To be the strong one, the reliable one, the sun in everyone's sky, even when your own world was clouded with confusion, fatigue, or quiet heartbreak? How many times have you held yourself together for everyone else, while inside, parts of you were quietly falling apart? This is not weakness. This is not failure. This is the strength of a soul who's been carrying too much for too long, and today, the burden is being lifted. Because, Leo, something terrible has just ended. A cycle of emotional suppression, self-sacrifice, false belonging, or toxic attachment is over. Not in a loud explosion, but in a sacred unraveling. A gentle click of an old lock finally opening. And what's waiting beyond that door? A self you haven't fully met yet. A joy you've only dreamed of. A freedom you didn't know you could claim. So right now, I invite you to type in the comments, I am ready to walk through the door of my destiny. Because when you speak it, you anchor the energy. You align with the shift that's already happening for you. And before we dive deeper into the cosmic downloads for your love life, your finances, your soul mission, and the powerful tarot messages meant for you today, let me take a sacred moment to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for every like, every comment, every moment of your precious attention. Your support, your presence, your resonance, they are what fuel this channel and allow these soul transmissions to reach those who need them most. And trust me, Leo, you will want to stay with me until the very last second of this reading. Because what the universe is revealing today is nothing short of miraculous. So tell me, what did you do, dear Leo, to magnetize this message into your life today? Was it a prayer? A moment of surrender? A quiet hope that refused to die? Whatever it was, you're here now. And that means something sacred has already begun. Breathe in. Settle your heart. Because the journey we're about to take together will reignite your fire from the inside out. Let's begin. When we speak of endings, especially those that are painful and invisible to others, we often underestimate just how much courage it takes to let go. For Leo, this chapter wasn't just about a situation, it was about an identity. A version of you that believed being strong meant being silent. That shining meant being selfless to the point of depletion. That being admired was more important than being understood. And that to be loved, you had to perform a role instead of simply being who you truly are. But strength is not the same as suppression. And what you've just released, whether it was a toxic connection, a career path that no longer aligned, or a long-standing inner pressure to appear flawless, was never your true power. It was your armor. And now that armor has cracked, not because you've failed, but because you've grown too large for it. The lion can no longer fit in the cage it willingly entered years ago. And that's not weakness, it's liberation. From the lens of astrology and cosmic rhythm, Leo is ruled by the sun. You are here to radiate, to inspire, and to lead, not through control, but through presence. Yet when the sun dims itself for too long, it begins to burn inward. That's when burnout, emotional fatigue, and hidden sorrow creep in, not because you're broken, but because your light was turned inward instead of being shared freely. You became the light for everyone else, and somewhere along the way, you forgot to stand in the warmth of your own radiance. There's a quiet form of suffering that arises when your life becomes an ongoing performance. You say yes when your body says no. You smile while silently grieving. You show up for everyone, while waiting endlessly for someone to show up for you. And the worst part? You're so good at pretending that no one even notices you're unraveling. But Leo, that time is over. The curtain has closed on that version of you. And it had to. Because the you that is emerging now no longer relies on applause. You are learning that your worth is not measured by admiration, but by alignment. You are discovering that it's not selfish to rest, to set boundaries, to say, "This is too heavy for me right now." You are allowed to lay down what was never yours to carry. You are allowed to say, "I choose me." Not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. This is not the end of your strength, it is the beginning of your sovereignty. Energetically, this moment mirrors the quiet transformation of a tree in winter. No one sees the roots deepening, the quiet restoration happening beneath the surface. But in silence, growth continues. Letting go is not dramatic. It's often quiet, gentle, like the last leaf falling from a branch before spring arrives. You're not collapsing. You're softening. You're coming home to your true center. In ancient wisdom teachings, it is said that the greatest strength lies not in domination, but in non-resistance. Not in holding tight, but in knowing when to release. Not in effort, but in ease. And you, Leo, are stepping into that sacred space now. Where effort gives way to grace. Where control bows to trust. Where your heart is finally allowed to breathe. This chapter has ended, yes. But the story isn't over. It's just beginning to be written from a place of truth, not image. From alignment, not expectation. From love, not performance. And as the old shell dissolves, what remains is your purest, most luminous self, unapologetic, unburdened, and absolutely unstoppable. When it comes to love, Leo, there is a moment that arrives not always with thunder, but with a soft, undeniable recognition that your heart is finally ready to open again. Not in the way it used to, shaped by the need to prove worth or maintain appearances, but in a way that is raw, unguarded, and profoundly authentic. This is the kind of opening that doesn't ask for permission. It simply happens when the soul has grown tired of the roles and longs for real connection. Many of you, especially those in relationships, have played your part well. You've been generous, charismatic, reliably a pillar of strength in the eyes of your partner. But somewhere in the rhythm of day-to-day life, the script may have started to feel empty. Perhaps you found yourself smiling on the outside, but aching for depth on the inside. That ache is not a flaw in the connection, it's a signpost. A calling to drop the performance and speak truthfully, without fear. When two hearts are willing to meet in that place naked in vulnerability, not masked in perfection, real intimacy begins. And when you choose each other again from that place of clarity, not obligation, love becomes a sacred foundation instead of a fragile illusion. For those of you walking solo, your heart may still carry echoes of past disappointments. You've learned, perhaps the hard way, that not all love sees you clearly. Some only love the spotlight you stand in, not the soul that fuels it. But now, something is shifting. The kind of love that is approaching you is not dazzled by your light, it's drawn to the source of it. They won't want you for your crown, Leo. They'll love you for the way you shine when no one's looking. Still, I understand if part of you hesitates. When you've been hurt, your nervous system remembers. It braces itself. It tightens the gate around your heart, not because you don't want love but because you fear repetition. But just as a flower doesn't withhold its bloom because of last season's drought, your heart, too, is learning to soften again. This isn't about rushing. It's about readiness. And your readiness isn't defined by how long you've waited, but by the quiet courage it takes to say, I'm open. I trust. From the perspective of cosmic law, especially the law of attraction, the frequency you emit is the frequency that returns to you. When your heart whispers, I'm ready to be seen, you don't just attract people, you attract mirrors. And this time, what's coming may not be flashy or immediate, but it will feel like resonance. You'll feel safe, not because there are no risks, but because you're no longer abandoning yourself for connection. That's the shift. That's what makes this moment different from all the rest. There is a principle taught in ancient mindfulness traditions, that love is not something we seek, but something we uncover when the self is at peace. In that space, love is no longer an escape from loneliness, it becomes an extension of your wholeness. That is what this chapter of your life is offering you, Leo. Not just a partner, but a reflection. Not just a romance, but an awakening. So allow yourself to release the armor. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You just need to be real. Say the words aloud. Let them echo in your chest. I allow true love to find me. Because love, in its purest form, never forces its way in. It simply waits for the moment when you're willing to open the door. And now you are. Work, at its core, is not meant to be a prison. It's meant to be a platform, a sacred ground where your talents, efforts, and presence contribute to something meaningful. But for many Leo souls, the journey through career and finances has often come with an internal conflict, the pressure to succeed externally versus the longing to feel fulfilled internally. And now, you are arriving at a pivotal crossroads, a place where your soul is asking the most important question of all. Is this still aligned with who I am becoming? You didn't come to this world to grind endlessly just to survive. You didn't come here to exchange your fire for approval or trade your voice for a paycheck. You came here to create, to lead, and to live with purpose. And while that purpose may once have been connected to a job, a role, or even a dream that once lit you up, it's okay to acknowledge that something has shifted. You have evolved, and so too must your definition of success. The end of a professional chapter can feel scary, especially when the path ahead is still forming. But energetically, endings in the career realm often signify that your soul is no longer willing to invest in something that depletes it. You may notice it as burnout that won't go away, or a quiet dread that greets you each morning, or a repeated pattern of feeling unseen, underappreciated, or boxed in. These signs are not failures, they are invitations. They are the language of your intuition, asking you to listen more closely. In the sky, Leo is ruled by the sun. That means you are solar by nature, creative, expressive, magnetic, and made to shine. So when you're forced into spaces where you must mute your brilliance, where your originality is dismissed, or where your leadership is taken for granted, you begin to feel more like a shadow of yourself. But now, the tide is turning. A new beginning is emerging, not from outside of you, but from within. That spark you've been ignoring? The idea that keeps returning? The feeling that there is something more? That's not fantasy. That's alignment calling you home. The appearance of the Ace of Pentacles in your energy field is not just a lucky break, it's a reminder that tangible opportunities grow best in fertile soil. And the most fertile soil of all is authenticity. When you say no to what no longer resonates, whether it's a job, a business partnership, or an old way of making money, you make space for the right opportunity to arrive. And this one will not just pay the bills. It will feed your soul. Financially, improvement comes not from hustle alone but from congruence. When your actions match your inner truth, abundance naturally flows. Think of it like a river. It doesn't force its way, it moves with ease and direction. The same goes for your income. The more you choose paths aligned with your strengths and values, the more magnetic your energy becomes, and the easier it is for money, recognition, and new growth to find you. There's a quiet teaching that says, when you stop chasing what is not yours, what is meant for you arrives. That's the shift you're in now. It's not about quitting on a whim. It's about choosing with clarity. Your energy is too sacred to waste on environments that shrink you. Your gifts are too rare to be spent in places that refuse to see them. So pause. Breathe. Feel into the truth that's been whispering beneath the noise. It's time to choose again. And this time, choose what reflects who you've become, not who you used to be. Say yes to what makes you feel alive. Say yes to the next version of you that is waiting to rise, not in survival mode, but in sovereign expression. That is how your light leads not just others but you home. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when silence becomes too loud to bear. Not the outer silence, but the quiet ache within, a weight you've been carrying not because it was yours, but because you believed you had to hold it all together. In the realm of family, many Leo hearts have become the invisible backbone, the one who keeps things afloat, who smooths over the tension, who absorbs the chaos with a graceful smile and tells themselves, "I'm fine," even when they are anything but. You have played the role of the peacemaker, the protector, the strong one. But very few have stopped to ask, who holds you? The reverse 10 of Swords is not simply a card of pain, it is a card of release. It signals a turning point, the sacred ending of emotional burdens that were never truly yours to bear. It speaks of wounds that no longer define you and the invisible contracts you've made within your family that are now expiring. Maybe you agreed to stay small so others could feel safe. Maybe you sacrificed your needs to earn love or peace. Maybe you became the easy one, because being honest felt too dangerous. But now, your soul is done writing those stories. Not out of anger, but out of wisdom. True healing in the family line doesn't begin with confrontation. It begins with clarity. It begins the moment you stop asking people to see you, and instead choose to see yourself fully, gently, honestly. What you've carried is noble, but it's not sustainable. Because love, real love, doesn't require you to shrink. It doesn't ask you to absorb dysfunction or abandon your boundaries in the name of belonging. There is a teaching in the ancient wisdom traditions that says freedom comes not when things are perfect, but when the mind no longer clings. This is your invitation, Leo, to unclench your grip, not because you're giving up on people, but because you are returning to yourself. Forgiveness, in this context, is not approval of what happened. It's not denial. It is a quiet and revolutionary act of choosing peace. It's saying, I release this, because my heart deserves to rest. In astrology, Leo governs the heart, not just the physical organ, but the emotional center of generosity, courage, and self-respect. When a Leo chooses to heal ancestral patterns, it echoes through generations. You are not only changing your own story, you are becoming the one who interrupts the cycle. And you do it not with drama, but with stillness. Not with resistance, but with understanding. Sometimes the deepest pain comes not from being rejected but from never being truly seen. And that invisibility leaves a scar. But here's what you need to know: the moment you choose to step out of the role, to stop pretending you're okay when you're not, to stop overgiving in hopes of being valued, you become visible again. To yourself. To the universe. To the kind of love that doesn't need you to perform. Family, in its truest form, isn't defined by blood. It's defined by resonance. It's found in the people who ask how you are and genuinely wait for the answer. It's found in the ones who make space for your full self, not just the parts that serve them. And when you clear space in your life by letting go of what no longer nourishes you, those people begin to appear. So if this touched something deep in you, say it aloud: I let go to be free. And know that in doing so, you are not walking away, you are walking home. Back to your center. Back to the version of you that no longer needs to carry what was never meant to be yours. When the light begins to return, it rarely arrives all at once. It comes softly, like the sun rising through a layer of morning mist, not to blind you, but to remind you that clarity, warmth, and forward motion are still possible. This part of your journey, Leo, is not about rebuilding from urgency. It's about remembering who you were before you forgot how radiant you could be. The energy surrounding you now is filled with cosmic encouragement, subtle but unmistakable signs that your spirit is reawakening, that your purpose is being restored, and that your next steps are already being blessed by the universe. Let's begin with color, the silent language of vibration. Orange, bold and fiery, activates your sacral center, the seat of creativity, confidence, and pleasure. Wearing it, visualizing it, or even sitting with its hue in meditation stirs your natural magnetism, your unapologetic charisma, your right to express. Gold, on the other hand, is the language of sovereignty. This is not the glitter of ego, but the glow of self-respect. It reminds you that you do not have to earn your worth. It was never lost. The golden light calls you to rise as the royalty you've always been, not by controlling others but by honoring your truth. The numbers 19 and 55 are not coincidences. They are vibrational markers. 19, ruled by the sun, reflects a cycle that is completing and simultaneously beginning anew. It speaks of self-mastery, of stepping into the spotlight not to perform, but to lead with authenticity. 55 is the energy of transformation. It does not promise ease, but it does offer expansion. Like a river forced to find a new course after the dam breaks, your life is making a bold turn. And if you resist the shift, the discomfort grows louder. But if you surrender with curiosity, you'll find yourself flowing towards something unimaginably better. This transition is also mirrored through the tarot cards that have come forward for you. The Strength card is not merely a reminder of your willpower, it's a mirror reflecting your capacity to face your own emotions without flinching. To hold space for your anger, your grief, your finite to silence them, but to walk beside them with compassion. It's in this gentle courage that true strength arises. And from there, the Queen of Wands reminds you of your natural brilliance. You're not here to ask for permission to shine. You're here to embody your flame so fully that it ignites the path for others, simply by being who you are. The reverse 10 of Swords signals something crucial. The worst is behind you. This is not about erasing the past, but about no longer being governed by it. The cycle of betrayal, depletion, or over-identification with pain is ending. You've survived the night. The dawn is yours now. And with that comes the Ace of Pentacles, a grounding gift. This isn't a fantasy. It's something real, a new offer, a financial opportunity, a tangible next step that requires your belief. Not belief in luck, but belief in your readiness. You don't have to chase what's meant for you, you just have to say yes when it knocks. Finally, the Star. The quiet miracle. The whisper of a wish that once felt too far away now begins to shimmer on the horizon. This is the kind of hope that doesn't scream. It hums. It finds you when you're still. When you've stopped running and started listening. The star is not a guarantee, but it is a promise that the universe is already conspiring in your favor, that your healing is underway, and that your deepest longing is not only valid, it's possible. As you move forward, remember, the return of your light isn't an accident. It's the result of everything you've let go of, everything you've faced, and everything you've dared to believe in even when it was hard. So take a breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let the fire within you glow again, not to prove, not to chase, just to be. This is the light that guides you now. Quiet. Steady. Unstoppable. Leo, the truth is you've carried more than most people will ever know. You've stayed strong when it was easier to break, smiled when your heart was aching, and kept showing up time and again even when it felt like no one truly saw you. But today, something has shifted. The weight is lifting. The cycle is closing. And for perhaps the first time in a long while, you're being invited to ask yourself one powerful question. What if I no longer had to earn my light? You don't need permission to shine. You never did. You don't have to fit into an outdated version of who you were just to keep others comfortable. And you certainly don't have to keep dimming your brilliance out of fear that it might make someone else uncomfortable. You are not too much. You are exactly enough, and in this moment, you're being offered the chance to remember that. What if your healing began with one small, simple act of self-honoring? What would change if you allowed yourself to say yes to what lights you up and no to what drains your soul, even if it used to define you. What doors might open if you dared to believe that the future waiting for you is kinder, softer, and more aligned than the path you've outgrown. This reading wasn't meant to predict your fate, it was meant to realign you with your truth. Every message here is an echo from your higher self, a reminder of what you've always known deep down. You're not here to survive, you are here to lead with love, to create from joy, and to walk boldly in the direction of your own light. So as you leave this space today, I invite you to take a moment, just a quiet breath, and anchor everything you've heard into your heart. Let it settle. Let it soak in. Let it soften the parts of you that have been holding on too tightly. Then ask yourself, where am I still pretending? And what would happen if I finally let go? Because the truth is, Leo, you are the fire. You are the pulse, the passion, the presence. And the world needs you, not the version of you that's polished for approval, but the one that's raw, honest, radiant, and real. If this message has stirred something in you, even if just a flicker, I invite you to anchor it now by commenting below. I'm ready to live as my true light. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Eternal Mindfulness, and share it with someone who may need it. Because every click, every comment, every bit of energy you pour into this sacred space doesn't just support this channel, it deepens your own connection with the path you're walking. Let me take a moment to thank you truly, deeply, for being here. For receiving. For showing up for yourself. You are the reason this space exists. Your presence, your growth, your light, it matters. And if no one has told you lately, I see you. I honor you. I believe in what's coming next for you. So stay close, dear Leo. Because the fire that's rising in you, know it's not chaos. It's clarity. It's not destruction. It's destiny. And trust me, the most beautiful part of your story is still being written.